One, I want to start by saying thank you all for your patience. We're a little bit behind because we are having some technical difficulties, but that's okay. That's not going to stop us. We are going to learn so much today, all about my favorite subject. So I hope you can tag along and enjoy what we're talking about today because it's going to be all about whales. Now, right now, we're hanging out in Blue Cavern. My name is Dana, and I'm a member of the education team here. I'm also joined by Cynthia, who's taking your questions at the computer and sending them in to me. And we have Carrie behind the screen, who's controlling the magic. So the way this is going to work is we're going to be communicating through texting at this phone number right here. It's 562-286-1838. Now, again, I did say texting. We do not accept phone calls at that number. It's a text line only. And remember that standard texting rates do apply, so make sure you have adult permission before sending us a message. Now, Cynthia is going to take some of those questions and pass them in here. I know there's a lot of you out there watching and waiting, ready to learn with us. And so, again, we're going to answer as many questions as we can on the air, but there's going to be so many. Cynthia's also going to be helping out and texting some of the responses to you. So you're still going to be chatting with an educator. It just might not be on screen. Now, a couple other things that we want to remember is if you're watching this stream after our live stream, which is going to be what is today? It is Wednesday, February 10th at 9 to 9:30 Pacific time. If it is outside of that half hour, we ask you, instead of texting, go ahead and email us right here at live@lbaop.org. Once again, that's live@lbaop.org. We're going to be checking that email periodically, and we'll be able to get back to you and answer all of those questions that you might have. Now, like I said, we're chatting about whales, so why are we hanging out in a kelp forest? Well, my friends, today we're going to be chatting about a local favorite. Now, when I say local, I really mean the west coast of the United States. So whether you're down here with us in LA, even farther south in San Diego, or all the way up in Washington State, even if you're on the east coast of the United States, you can always learn to love these California and west coast coastal whales known as gray whales. We're actually going to bring up a photo here of a gray whale, and that's going to be this animal right here. What do we know about whales in general? Go ahead and text some observations or some prior knowledge that you might have to Cynthia, and then she can shout it out to me. What have we got coming in? Oh, whales live underwater. Yeah. In fact, you can see in this picture right here that it is in fact swimming in the ocean. Whales like to come up to the surface a lot. Somebody said they breathe air. That's right, everyone. Do you see these nostrils right here? Yeah, I said nostrils. I know we often refer to them as blowholes, but they're just like our nostrils right there. And so they can breathe through there, and they do breathe air. So just like you and I, whales are mammals, okay? Now that means that they have lungs. Everyone take a big breath with me on 3. 1, 2, 3. Very good. So just like you and I, that animal does the same thing. It breathes with lungs, not gills. Oh, fins. What else? Oh, St. Martha's School is saying they're mammals. Exactly. So in order to be a mammal, they breathe air, just like we said. They have hair, right? Now you might be looking at me like, hairy whales and dolphins, what are you talking about? But believe it or not, baby whales in particular will have hair right around their nose here. Adults too. And it acts kind of like a sensory organ, right? Like if you blow on your arm and the hair on your arm kind of moves, that's the same thing, but they have it along their nose. So air, hair. What else makes a mammal a mammal? You know what? Warm-blooded. Now, warm-blooded means that whether this animal is in the tropics, swimming around in a nice lagoon in Baja California, where gray whales like to hang out, or they swim all the way up the coast to Alaska. Their main core temperature, so their body temperature, is going to be the same. And that's because their body maintains the same temperature no matter what the environment is. Now, in order to stay the same temperature, even in this cold ocean, do you know what whales are surrounded by? Yeah, that's right. They're surrounded by blubber. It's a nice, thick, fatty layer that kind of insulates the body to keep that core temperature. So we've got lungs, hair, warm-blooded animals. Have you ever seen a whale egg? No, me neither. But that's because whales don't lay eggs. Mammals, like whales and dogs and cats and you and birds lay eggs, right? Mammals give live birth. So that's one of the differences between egg laying and mammals, live birth, right? So we've got hair, air, warm-blooded, live birth. Can you think of another one? Hmm. What do baby mammals or whales eat? Did you eat bugs when you were a baby? I hope not. What did you eat instead? Yeah, that's right. You ate milk, right? So mama mammals, feed their babies milk. They nurse their young. So all of those characteristics are wrapped up in gray whales as well. Now, I see Cynthia is writing a lot out there. So like I said, there's a ton of you watching today. We're so excited. In fact, I want to talk about viewership for a quick moment here. Teachers, if you are watching with us and sharing your screen to your classes, please text in the number of students that are with you so that we can keep a tab on all of our viewing numbers for the program. Thank you so much. I'll remind you again at the end. Now, as she's writing, I'm going to give some highlights about gray whales in particular. Now, gray whales, again, I said they're a local favorite, and that's because these animals do a migration from Baja California, which is south of us, all the way up to Alaska. It's the longest mammal migration in the world. But what is a migration? Well, I put 2 locations, right? And I said they move between the 2. A migration is an animal movement from one location to another. This is an annual movement, meaning it happens every year. Gray whales, like this, oh, beautiful video. Gray whales will swim all the way from Alaska, way up at the top of the map, and down to Baja California in Mexico. And so you can see these are just a handful of gray whales swimming. They can swim anywhere from 12 to 14,000 miles. Again, the longest mammal migration in the world. Now, what that means is they oftentimes will come right along our coast, and we get to see them. Now, this is a confusing photo. What are we looking at here? You're right, that's not a whole whale, right? That's the blowhole right here. You can see the of their breath. This is the nose. Boop, boop. And this line right here, that's actually their mouth. Now, oftentimes people are like, but where's the eye, right? Where's this whale looking? The eye's probably, it could be right there. It could be somewhere in this kind of messy water. It's right around, right behind the mouth area. So again, long migration, but they are coastal animals. So Carrie, go ahead and throw us back in Blue Cavern. This is what I mean by coastal. Our gray whales, when they're traveling, they oftentimes will hug the coastline and get real close to it. And so they can be seen swimming just on the outside of this kelp forest habitat that you have heard us talk about a lot, right? This is a habitat that's right off our coastline here in California. There's colder kelp forest as you move north, but it's a very rich habitat with lots of animals. Lots of scuba divers, lots of snorkelers. We're kind of giving you the snorkeler's eye view right now. We're looking down on the kelp forest, and you can see a gray whale just swim right by. And so because they're coastal animals, you can actually see them standing on shore. In fact, gray whales are unique because they're coastal. They come very, very close, and we get to see them with binoculars. And we have a special group that studies gray whales. They're called the American Cetacean Society. Now, cetacean kind of is your overall whales, dolphins, and porpoises. Okay, it's another word for all of those animals. And they actually stand right here in Southern California at a place called Point Vicente. And they use binoculars and they look and they count gray whales as they migrate. I'm going to ask you, why do you think they do that? What can we learn by counting gray whales as they swim by? Now, while you ponder that, I'm going to answer some of these questions that have come in. The first one we have is from Zoe. Zoe wants to know, what do whales eat, and do baby whales eat adult food? Great question, Zoe. Now, a lot of whales will feed on small fish and squid and krill. Krill is a teeny tiny shrimp-like animal. Right here, I'm going to turn on a quick little camera and check out what krill looks like. It might take a moment. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can explore some krill here. I'll zoom in for you. This is krill. Now, a lot of whale species feed on this, like blue whales, the largest animal on Earth. If you can see, there's my finger for size, right? Pretty tiny. And so whales will usually eat thousands and thousands and thousands of krill. Now, gray whales, on the other hand, they're going to be feeding entirely different. In fact, Carrie has a really amazing video to pull up on the screen, and I want you to watch and observe, and I want you to tell me what's unique about this animal. What do you notice in this video where we know that it is feeding? What do you see here? Whoa, 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 whoa. What is all that? That's right. That's a cloud of mud. So gray whales are what we call benthic feeders. Now, benthic is a fancy way of saying on the bottom. So while most whales, like a humpback and a blue whale, swim along and scoop krill and small fish out of the water column, gray whales, like this one right here, they will dive down and they'll scoop up a mouthful of mud. Then you can see all this mud coming out of its mouth. It has something very special inside. It's called baleen. Now, baleen is a hair-like structure. Okay, this is just one little plate of baleen. Beautiful, beautiful photo. Thank you, Carrie. This right here, it kind of looks like teeth, but it's actually this stuff. I'm going to hold it up close to the camera. Okay, you can see it's sort of hair-like. Might be a little blurry. Let's go to the document camera. All right, so it's a little hair-like right here. And again, that's just that's 2 plates of baleen right there. Now these plates, if you can see in that photo, they line the mouth of the whale, okay? So you're kind of looking at it like this. And on the inside, you have that hair. Now when it takes up that mouthful of mud, then it uses a big strong tongue to push all that mud out through the baleen. It's like a filter, right? And all the little animals that live inside the mud get stuck in the whale's mouth. So gray whales, Zoe, to answer your question, gray whales are usually feeding on small things called amphipods. They're like little bugs that live in the sand and mud under the ocean. Now they can also get a bunch of other animals that live down there. But again, the key word here is they feed on the bottom of the ocean. Do baby whales eat adult food? Great question to follow up there, Zoe. So again, a baby whale is a baby mammal. And at the very beginning, what did we say mammals like to eat when they're babies? That's right. They like to eat milk. So mama gray whale will actually nurse baby and provide milk. In fact, whale milk can be so thick in nutrients and fat that it's almost more like cottage cheese. Kind of thick, right? But imagine it being underwater so it dissipates a little bit more. Wonderful question. Now, LAUSD preschool says they are huge. That's right, everyone. Whales are really big animals. But believe it or not, the gray whale, like this one, is actually one of the smaller whales out there. Gray whales can reach about 35 to 40 feet max. That's pretty big for a gray whale. However, blue whales, the largest animal to ever live, they can reach up to 110 feet. Pretty spectacular if you ask me, almost over about 3 gray whale lengths. All right, now Rick wants to know, why do whales have a hole on top of their head? Great question, Rick. Carrie, can you take us back to that video of them swimming? She's going to pull it up for us in just a second. So remember, the whale's blowhole is kind of back here. Now we're going to pull up that video of them swimming, and I want you to notice how they surface and what they do with that blowhole on top of their head. We're going to make some observations here. All right, check it out. I'm providing sound effects for you. All right, let's see that happen one more time. Ooh, there we go. So you notice these whales are right under the surface. So what did they do when they came up to the surface with that blowhole on their back? Yeah, they kind of just came up and went, right? Remember I said that the whale's blowhole is kind of like our nostrils. Now, if you and I were swimming in the ocean, right, we'd be swimming like this. And when we go to breathe, we would have to breathe to the side, right? Or lift our head all the way up. Have you ever done that when you're swimming in a pool? It can be really hard. It can be really tiring. So whales, in order to still breathe air while staying nice and flat in the water, their nostrils are up here. So imagine if you were swimming and your nostrils were right here. You'd be swimming, 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 and all of a sudden you just go swimming, 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 right? So it's really, really easy for them to do that and really easy for them to get that breath of air that they need to continue moving. Nice job. Good observation, Rick. And then we have another question. What are the cream-colored objects on the whale? We're actually going to keep it on this photo because this is a great shot. Gray whales get their name because they have very mottled skin. So you can see gray, you can see some white, right? However, you also notice these patches right there, and even up on the rostrum here, that's their nose, of cream-colored something. Well, my friends, that cream-colored something on gray whales, that's actually whale barnacles and whale lice. That's right, they're little critters that are living on the back of this whale. They will kind of dig in and hold on tight. The barnacles are filter feeders. So as the whale swims through the ocean, the barnacles are catching food as it goes by. The whale lice will actually feed on the whale. So they're what we call a parasite. However, they also feed on the whale's dead skin, right? And so they're kind of good for it. So there's a balance between being a parasite and being sort of helpful. Now, what's amazing about the and lice that can grow on these whales is an individual gray whale can have up to 2,000 pounds of whale lice and barnacles on them. Carrie, do we have any other photos with some like real good barnacle shots? Carrie's going to do us a favor and look for it while I'm answering another question. Ooh, yeah, here you can see a lot right there. And all the way up along here. And it can run the entire length of their body. Now, while she's looking, I'm going to answer Celica's question, which is how much time does it take for whales to migrate? Really great question. Surprisingly, not as long as you'd think. If you had to swim from Alaska to Baja, it's going to take you a really long time. However, whales have that incredibly strong fluke or tail that helps them swim down the coastline. And we start to see them, we start to see them in like October. And that's when they start moving south. And we stop seeing them in about May or so. And remember, we're at the very end of their migration when they're almost to Baja. So you can imagine that between, they might leave here October, maybe a month or two, I think. But I'm going to have Cynthia look that up to confirm. Usually only takes about a month or two for them to get south. Is that right? She's going to look it up. Ooh, we've got this one right here. Okay, perfect. Now, Isabel wants to know, where is a whale's favorite place to give birth? Great question, Isabel. Now, for gray whales, like we have on the screen right here, one reason that they're coming south to Baja, California, is to give birth. Now, that's because there's a lot of shallow lagoons that have warm water and very few predators. And that's the key. Ooh, it takes about 2 to 3 months for the whole migration or just one direction? See, she's looking. One way, about 2 to 3 months. Okay, so I was a little shy. I said 1 to 2 months. 2 to 3 months, one way. So whales are swimming quite a bit and traveling a lot. But again, Isabel, they like to come down to Baja for these predator-free, shallow, safe lagoons. And so they'll swim all the way down with a calf in their belly. They'll get down to the lagoons. They'll give birth, and they'll have this calf. And then mom and calf will actually make their whole trip back together. They make it up to Alaska because in Alaska, there's a lot more food. So check it out again, that baleen. This is a piece of kelp or algae coming out of its mouth. And so they'll swim and they'll swim and they'll swim for 2 to 3 months. They'll get up to Alaska. They'll spend a couple months feeding, taking in all these nutrients, and they like to get nice and fat. They like to store up all of this food. And then they do the same thing. They swim back down. They go down to Baja, right? They will mate or have a baby, and then they do it again. And that's the life of a gray whale. Now, what I want to talk about in these last couple of minutes here is I want to chat about the fact that because these whales are so incredibly coastal, they have a lot of impacts from humans. I want you to think about that, okay? While you're thinking about that, I'm going to answer the other question I asked you. Remember, I asked you what to learn about watching gray whales and counting their numbers from shore. And one thing that the ACS, the American Cetacean Society, does is they get what's called a census on a gray whale population. They give us an idea of just how many are out there. And it's estimated that on the west coast of the United States, which is the eastern half of the Pacific Ocean, there's about 25 to 27,000 gray whales. That's a lot, especially considering back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, we actually hunted gray whales, and their population numbers dropped down to about 2,000. 2,000 up to 27,000. We've put all sorts of protections in place and really seen these animals come back from very low population numbers, which is so exciting to see these conservation efforts go into place and actually work. For example, we stopped whaling. And that's a big one, right? We stopped taking these animals from the ocean, and it's allowed their population to recover. Now, again, we talked about, my question to you just now was about human impacts and threats on these animals. So I want you to think about that. Ooh, we have a couple questions here. I love it. So Dixie wants to know, do they swim in pods? Dixie Canyon. Dixie Canyon was the school? So Dixie Canyon wants to know, do they swim in pods? Really great question. Gray whales, they tend to be what we call a solitary whale, meaning they don't really hang around in big groups. Typically your larger whales like humpbacks and blue whales and fin whales and gray whales, they are a little bit more spread out. However, dolphins, orcas, our toothed whales usually will travel in pods. Now, that being said, you can sometimes see a group of 3 or 4 gray whales traveling together, but nothing like a pod of 100 dolphins or something. And then Goldie wants to know, how do they sleep? Very carefully. So whales are what we call conscious breathers, okay? When you and I go to sleep, we don't have to think about it. We just conk out, right? Just like that. Now, our whales, they have to say, okay, time to go take a breath. Swim, swim, swim. Okay, time to go take a breath. Right? So they have to really think about that as they're moving. And so they can't just shut down their whole brain. So whales will actually shut down half of their brain at a time. One half is asleep. One half is looking out for predators, paying attention to their route, and paying attention to their breathing. So a little bit more complicated than us. Now, we're going to end the class talking about those last few threats that I mentioned. Have you thought of any? Because there's a lot out there when you think of a coastal animal, right? Right now, there's a lot of fishing seasons happening in the oceans, and lobster pots or crab pots can be a big problem, right? They are a pot or a big cage that you put at some of the, and it usually has a line of rope and a buoy attached. Now, for you and I, if we were swimming, we would probably avoid these things, right? However, our gray whales are just trying to get from point A to point B, and they don't know what a fishing pot is. And so when they swim, oftentimes they'll hit one of the ropes, and instead of backing up and figuring it out, whales get scared and they actually will twist. And then they can get entangled. So entanglement is a problem for coastal whales like our gray whales, backs as well. Some things that we've done to fix that is plan our fishing seasons around migration routes. Or we've adjusted where we are allowed to set up our traps, right? Another issue that a lot of coastal whales come into contact with is shipping lanes. Now, believe it or not, when we look out at the ocean, we just see a big wide open ocean. However, just like on land, we have freeways and roads, there's shipping lanes across the ocean. And you have to have a GPS and a map to make sure that you're following it. But Shipping lanes are like the highways across our ocean's surface. And big ships will come through these shipping lanes. And we've studied that, well, a lot of whales like to hang out right here, but not right here. If we just move that shipping lane even a mile, we can drastically reduce the impact of ships and whales and the interactions that they might have. So these are things that we can study and learn by getting a census. Remember, we count the whale population out there. These are things we can study and learn by paying attention to whale sightings, right? Whale watch boats will often mark where they saw these animals, and they can use that data and make informed decisions about how we can protect them. Now, some other things, of course, living coastally, we have an impact just on our daily lives and the pollution that might be making its way to the water. Whales have been found with plastic in their bellies instead of food. And so we want to make sure that we're paying attention to our waste, right? Whales have been found that sometimes certain chemicals that find their way into the ocean can really affect the fact that they can or cannot have healthy babies. So paying attention to what kind of stuff we use to clean and wash and maintain our yards, right? These are all things that impact our animals. And you might be looking at me like, how does me eating these cookies out of this plastic wrapper make any impact on that whale? But again, you have to think about how the whole world is connected, and things that we might not fully understand yet can drastically impact our animals. Now, friends, we are wrapping it up right here. I hear Cynthia's typing away, answering all these questions that you might have. I really enjoyed learning with you. Again, I love whales. Now, one last thing I want to encourage you to do is if you are local in California, especially along the coastline, I know we're all itching to get outside, get some fresh air. So I encourage you to check out your local beach, local ocean. See if you can go explore and maybe look for some gray whales from shore. I encourage binoculars, but you don't even need them. They're close enough. But I do want to remind you that in order to keep all of our parks open, we have to follow all the rules, make sure that we're masked up and staying nice and safe. But again, I encourage you to go explore the animals that you have around you. If you're not at the ocean, grab a pair of binoculars and check out some birds. There is so much in our world that we can still learn and discover right from our front doorstep. All right, my friends, we're going to be wrapping it up. Teachers, once again, if you are watching with students, please text in the number of students you have watching with you. That way we can keep track of viewership. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Join us again at 10 o'clock in half an hour for a Draw With Us Spanish class with Cynthia. She's going to be teaching in Spanish and drawing together. Make sure you have some art supplies ready at hand, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.